On July 24th, 2025, the world lost Hulk Hogan. Within minutes, social media exploded.
We have breaking news. Wrestling legend Hulk Hogan has died.
Some called him the greatest wrestler who ever lived. Others said he should never have been celebrated in the first place.
Apparently, Hulk Hogan just passed away too. First Ozzy, now Hulk Hogan. This is an awful week.
It was a strange ending for the man who once seemed untouchable. 20 years earlier, Hulk Hogan stood on the biggest stage of his career as thousands of fans chanted his name during his WWE Hall of Fame induction. It felt like the perfect ending. Wrestling had found its greatest hero, and the man who built the industry would be remembered forever. But life had other plans. Over the next 2 decades, Hogan would lose almost everything. His family fell apart, his reputation collapsed. The company he helped build erased his name from its Hall of Fame. For a while, it looked like Hulkamania had finally come to an end. And yet, when news of his passing spread across the wrestling world, something unexpected happened. Old rivals paid tribute. Fans who had criticized him remembered the moments that made them fall in love with wrestling. Because as complicated as Terry Bollea was, one fact remained impossible to ignore. Without Hulk Hogan, professional wrestling might never have become the global phenomenon it is today. But to understand how one man could both build wrestling and nearly destroy it, we have to go back to a small house in Tampa, Florida. Long before he was Hulk Hogan, he was just Terry Bollea. Growing up in Tampa wasn't glamorous. His family didn't have much money, and Terry never felt like he belonged. At school, he was teased relentlessly. He was bigger than most kids, heavier than most kids. His classmates noticed every difference. Terry later admitted that he dreaded going to school because he knew someone would find another reason to make fun of him. So he escaped somewhere else, professional wrestling. Every week, he'd watch colorful giants, superheroes, and villains battle inside the ring. For a few hours, real life disappeared. He idolized Dusty Rhodes. He admired superstar Billy Graham. More than anything, he wanted to become someone people admired instead of someone people laughed at. His parents, however, had different plans. They wanted Terry to get an education and find a stable career. When he dropped out of college to play bass guitar, they were disappointed. When he told them he wanted to become a professional wrestler, they thought he had completely lost his mind. At the time, wrestling wasn't viewed as a respectable profession. Most people saw it as carnival entertainment. The money wasn't guaranteed, the injuries were real, and only a handful of wrestlers ever became famous. Still, Terry refused to give up. He found legendary trainer Hiro Matsuda, who had a reputation for pushing young wrestlers to their limits. According to Hogan, Matsuda deliberately broke his leg during training to test whether he was serious about the business. Most people would have walked away. Terry came back. That moment said everything about him. He wasn't the most naturally gifted wrestler. He wasn't the best technician, but nobody questioned how badly he wanted it. That determination would eventually catch the attention of someone who would change his life forever, because across the country, another man was preparing to gamble everything on professional wrestling. In 1979, Terry arrived in the World Wrestling Federation. It wasn't the wrestling giant we know today. It was just another regional promotion trying to survive. Vince McMahon Sr. looked at the young wrestler and gave him a new identity, Hulk Hogan. The name sounded larger than life, and that was exactly the point. But Terry's big break didn't come inside a wrestling ring. It came in Hollywood. When Sylvester Stallone was casting Rocky III, he wanted someone who looked impossible to beat. The moment he saw Hogan, he knew he had found his man. Hogan played Thunderlips, a wrestler so enormous that even Rocky Balboa looked small standing next to him. The role lasted only a few minutes, but millions of people suddenly knew who Hulk Hogan was. Ironically, the movie nearly ended his wrestling career before it truly began. Vince McMahon Sr. believed wrestlers shouldn't appear in Hollywood films. He fired Hogan. It seemed like a disaster. Instead, it became the greatest career move Terry never planned. Because while Hogan's popularity exploded through Rocky III, Vince McMahon Jr. was preparing something no promoter had ever attempted. He wanted to take wrestling nationwide. It was an enormous financial gamble. If it failed, the company would collapse. If it worked, professional wrestling would never be the same again. There was only one problem. Every revolution needs a face, and Vince believed he had already found his. When Hogan returned to the WWF in 1983, everything changed. Within months, he defeated the Iron Sheik to become WWF champion. The arena erupted. Children cheered, parents cheered. A movement had officially begun. They called it Hulkamania. But while millions of fans were embracing their new superhero, people behind the scenes were beginning to see a very different side of Terry Bollea. And that contradiction would eventually become one of the biggest stories in wrestling history. It's almost impossible to explain just how famous Hulk Hogan became. Today, wrestling has dozens of stars. Back then, there was Hulk Hogan and everyone else. He defended the WWF Championship for more than 4 years. His bright red and yellow gear became instantly recognizable around the world. Kids copied his poses. They ripped their shirts apart. They trained, said their prayers, and ate their vitamins because Hulk Hogan told them to.
Train, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, be true to yourself, true to your country.
He wasn't just selling wrestling, he was selling hope. At least that's what millions believed. Under Vince McMahon, WWF exploded across cable television. Merchandise flew off store shelves, action figures, lunchboxes, and video games, t-shirts. Everything with Hulk Hogan's face on it became a bestseller. For the first time, professional wrestling wasn't just popular, it was mainstream entertainment. Then came WrestleMania, the event that would eventually become wrestling's Super Bowl. At the center of it all stood Hulk Hogan. Every year, the biggest show ended the same way. Hogan standing tall, fans screaming, the music blasting through packed arenas. No wrestler had ever reached this level of fame. But success creates power, and power changes people. Inside the locker room, not everyone viewed Hogan as the selfless hero fans saw on television. Some believed he used his influence to protect his position. Others felt he put his own career above everyone else's. One decision in particular would follow him for the rest of his life. When Jesse Ventura attempted to organize a wrestlers' union that could have changed the business forever, many believed Hulk Hogan's support would make the difference. Instead, Hogan told Vince McMahon, the movement collapsed before it truly began. To some wrestlers, Hogan had protected the company. To others, he had betrayed an entire generation. And that wouldn't be the last time Hulk Hogan found himself standing at the center of wrestling's biggest controversy. Because just when it looked like Hulkamania would last forever, the fans stopped believing, and the move that saved Hogan's career would almost destroy another wrestling empire. By the mid-1990s, Hulkamania was running out of steam. For over a decade, fans had watched the same hero overcome impossible odds. The red and yellow, the ripped shirt, the comeback, the leg drop. It had worked for years, but audiences were changing. They wanted something new, something less like a superhero, and more like real life. Hogan knew it too. For the first time in his career, he wasn't the hottest act in wrestling anymore. So he left the WWF and signed with WCW. At first, it looked like history was repeating itself. He won championships, sold tickets, packed arenas. But after a year, the cheers started getting quieter. Fans had seen the act before. Then came the decision that changed wrestling forever. In 1996, Hulk Hogan walked to the ring wearing the NWO. The ultimate good guy had become wrestling's biggest villain. Fans couldn't believe it. Children who had grown up calling Hogan their hero suddenly hated him. Adults loved every second of it. Hollywood Hogan wasn't telling kids to eat their vitamins anymore. He mocked them. He cheated. He lied. He did everything the old Hulk Hogan never would. It became one of the greatest character changes in entertainment history. WCW suddenly became the hottest company in America. For 83 straight weeks, Monday Nitro defeated WWE in the ratings. It looked like Vince McMahon's empire was finished. Ironically, Hogan had built wrestling into a global phenomenon, and now he was leading the company trying to destroy it. But success has a way of hiding problems. Behind the cameras, politics began taking over. Veteran stars protected their positions. Young talent struggled to break through. Creative decisions became more about keeping powerful names happy than building the future. Many wrestlers believed Hogan's backstage influence had become too strong. Whether every story was true or not, one thing was undeniable. The company slowly stopped creating new stars. And when the audience finally got tired of the NWO, WCW had nothing ready to replace it. The same man who helped make the company #1 had also played a role in its collapse. But while wrestling fans debated Hogan's backstage decisions, his personal life was beginning to unravel in ways no storyline could ever prepare him for. To millions of fans, Hulk Hogan was invincible. But Terry Bollea wasn't. Years of surgeries had destroyed his body. His knees, his hips, his back. Almost every major joint had been repaired or replaced. The physical pain was constant. Then the emotional pain arrived. In the mid-2000s, America welcomed cameras into Hogan's home through the reality show Hogan Knows Best. At first, it looked like the perfect family, a loving wife, 2 talented children, a wrestling legend enjoying retirement. It didn't last. The cameras captured arguments, stress, distance, then everything collapsed. His son Nick was involved in a devastating car crash that permanently changed another young man's life. His marriage ended in a bitter divorce. His relationship with his children became increasingly strained. For someone who had spent decades playing the world's strongest hero, there was nothing he could do to stop his own family from falling apart. Hogan later admitted he turned back to alcohol during some of the darkest moments of his life. He looked in the mirror and barely recognized himself. Then came another scandal. A private tape, recorded without his knowledge, was leaked online. The legal battle that followed became one of the biggest privacy cases in modern media history. Hogan won, but before the public conversation could die down, another recording surfaced. This time it wasn't about privacy. It was about words. Comments Hogan made years earlier spread across the internet. The backlash was immediate. WWE removed him from the Hall of Fame. His name disappeared from the company's website. For a man whose identity had always been tied to wrestling, it felt like history had erased him. Many fans walked away. Others believed he deserved a second chance. No matter which side people chose, the image of Hulk Hogan would never be the same again. But surprisingly, the final chapter of his life wasn't about championships. It was about whether redemption was still possible. Time has a way of changing people. As Hogan entered his 70s, he spoke differently. The confidence was still there, but so was regret. He openly admitted many of the mistakes that had damaged his career and personal life. He apologized. He tried rebuilding relationships. He talked more about faith than fame. His body continued to deteriorate. Walking became difficult. Simple movements caused pain. The man who once flexed his 24-inch pythons now joked that almost every part of his body had been repaired. Despite everything, he never stopped loving wrestling. Whenever people asked if he would return one more time, the answer was almost always yes, because wrestling wasn't just what Terry Bollea did, it was who he was. Then, in July 2025, news broke that Hulk Hogan had passed away. He was 71 years old. Almost immediately, every wrestling promotion, every major star, and millions of fans paused to remember him. Many people still criticized the mistakes he made. Others chose to remember the inspiration he gave them as children. Both reactions existed at the same time. And maybe that's what makes Hogan's story so fascinating. Very few people changed an entire industry the way he did. Very few people also experienced such a dramatic fall from grace. He built wrestling into mainstream entertainment. He helped create the Monday Night Wars that pushed wrestling to even greater heights. He inspired countless future champions. He also made decisions that damaged friendships, divided fans, and left permanent marks on his legacy. Terry Bollea wasn't a perfect man, not even close. But perfection was never what made Hulk Hogan unforgettable. Every generation has one person who changes everything. For professional wrestling, that person was Hulk Hogan. Without Hulkamania, there may never have been WrestleMania as we know it. Without Hogan, there may never have been a Monday Night War. Without the NWO, wrestling might never have evolved beyond its comic book roots. He was the industry's greatest hero. Then he became its greatest villain. In real life, he was both admired and criticized, and he inspired millions while disappointing many of the people closest to him. His story isn't one of perfection. It's a story about fame, power, success, failure, forgiveness, and the complicated reality behind becoming larger than life. Love him or criticize him. The history of professional wrestling cannot be told without Hulk Hogan. And decades from now, when people ask who put wrestling on the map, one name will still be impossible to ignore: Hulk Hogan.